All right, in front of me, I have four mezcals, but they're not all actually mezcal, technically. On the left, I have two officially labeled mezcals, and two on the right, I have an agave spirit and a destilado, which are basically the same thing. But they're all kind of renowned or known as mezcal. Why is that? So, in order to actually be called a mezcal, brands need to jump through a few hoops of the Comecam. The Comecam is a regulating body that governs mezcal. So, in order for you to officially name your bottle of mezcal, they have a set of processes that you have to follow. There are a few different processes. I kind of give you an intro into what some of those are. The first one, which all of these meet, is they're all 100% agave. The second one is they have to be produced within 9 states of Mexico. All of these were produced in Oaxaca, so they all meet that, right? The third, they have to go through standard processes in terms of production. There's three typically known ways of producing mezcal. Industrial, which just means things like rolling mill, so really relatively automated process. Artisanal would be more like the Hona production and some other ways as well. And then ancestral would be more hand milling. These are very traditional methods. All of these go through some of those processes in some capacity. The next is where things start to differ. These two have a label on them. This one right here, the shiny little label, which you can scan the QR code that takes you exactly to the point I'm about to make. Let's see, it's here as well. You can see the silver little label. That label allows you to track how your bottle was made and where it was tested and what date, all of that stuff, and to check it's actually official. On these two bottles, these aren't on there. Why is that? Simply because they didn't go through the process, so they're not officially known as mezcal. So, for some brands, being called a mezcal actually provides more bureaucracy and is quite limiting. So, for example, these two brands here, using Pensador, who has this mezcal and this one, which is an agave spirit, they go through all of the similar processes, but their Especial, which is the black label, is way more limited in production. They only produce maybe 100 to 200 bottles. So in that case, the cost of going through the CRM is actually possibly a bit too high considering how many bottles you're going to produce. I'm just using that number as an example. I don't know if it was only 100, 200 bottles. It's the same with Real Minero. They produce high quality stuff using the best processes, all of the traditional processes. You'd argue that they're actually one of the best renowned agave spirit brands, but they're not technically known as a mezcal, simply because they don't want to be stifled by the bureaucracy of this Comecam, and also it can limit their innovation in terms of some of the things that they want to be able to explore if it's not officially listed as a process that's accepted by the Comecam. For brands that I may not have in front of me that only want to produce a small amount, it's not economically viable to go through the steps that it requires for you to call your liquid officially a mezcal. Now, there's no one way to skin a cat. All the liquid I have in front of me are very beautiful liquid, quality stuff. I mean, I own them, right? But ultimately, it's just highlighting the differences in what you may find in terms of a mezcal and a destilado de mezcal or agave spirit. Another very beautifully made brand that I know that isn't officially a mezcal agave spirit is Neta. High quality stuff, really experimental, really lovely liquid, and they don't call it a mezcal, but people will call it that. So, in conclusion, ultimately, drink all of this stuff. It's all beautiful agave spirits, all well made for the most part, high quality. What we don't want is where people are exploiting the name agave spirit and not actually going through quality processes to produce their liquid. That's where it can be hazy. For very renowned brands, this is easy. They follow the processes. They probably are even more thorough in their processes and way more traditional and actually care about the craftsmanship that go into the development of their destilado or agave spirit. There are some brands who possibly aren't doing that and are exploiting the loopholes that are not required to be called a mezcal. Again, they're all one big family in terms of agave. They all make their own beautiful liquid, but that's the main reason why On some labels, you see destilado or agave spirit, and you see mezcal and others, but they're all technically, unofficially known as mezcals.